The pasta was already overcooked. I stared at the pot like it might offer me a reason. It didn't. Just limp noodles floating in cloudy water and a text that kept blinking on my screen. Staying at a friend's after work. Don't wait. Not even a comma. Like I was some delivery guy being notified of a schedule change. She was supposed to be home by 7. It was 8:41. I had set the table. 2 plates. Parmesan. Garlic bread in the oven, slightly burned now. I even opened that stupid bottle of wine she bought in Napa, the one we were saving for a special night. Apparently, tonight wasn't it. I typed, "Hope your boss pays for all that overtime. You'll need it soon." I hit send, and immediately wanted to take it back. Not because it wasn't true, but because it sounded weak. Like a kicked dog trying to bark. And here's the thing. I didn't know for sure. Not then. Not fully. But I had feelings. Not suspicions. Not evidence. Just cold, horrible feelings. Like how she started locking the bathroom door to brush her teeth. Or how her car smelled like men's cologne last Thursday, and she said it was from a Lyft ride. Or how she laughed, belly laughed, while texting someone, and when I asked what was funny, she said, "Nothing," and turned the phone face down. So yeah, I knew something. I just didn't know how much. The silence after my message was louder than any argument we'd ever had. I stared at the screen for a good 10 minutes, watching the read receipt come and go. No reply. Then, the burner on the stove clicked. Out of gas. Perfect metaphor. I poured myself a glass of the wine. She'd probably never drink from this bottle. And then I made a decision I didn't plan to make. I opened her old laptop, the one she hadn't used since upgrading last Christmas. What I found there? Well, that's where the story really begins. I didn't expect the laptop to turn on, honestly. It was one of those dusty, half-dead devices shoved under the couch with a cracked hinge and 2 missing keys. But it powered up like it had been waiting for me. No password. That was strange. The desktop was nearly empty. No clutter, no old folders, not even the cheesy vacation selfies I knew we used to keep. Just a single folder labeled Work Docs, which sounded boring enough. But inside, there were over 100 PDFs with names like Q4_projection, client_list_2023, and staffing_structure. All of them password protected. Every single one. I sat there, staring at that screen, listening to the soft hum of a dishwasher cycle and the occasional pop of cooling pasta. Her old laptop had become a vault, and I didn't have the key. I typed in her birthday. Access denied. Our anniversary? Wrong again. Her mom's maiden name? Nope. The name of our dog, Finn, who passed last winter. Still nothing. That's when I realized there was no reason for those files to even exist. Riley didn't do office work at home. She hated it. And this wasn't her current work laptop, anyway. So why encrypt random files on a dead machine she never used? Unless they weren't work files. My stomach twisted. I wasn't hungry anymore, obviously. I wasn't even angry. I was something worse. Numb and spinning, like a man standing on a frozen lake and hearing the cracks start to echo underfoot. I closed the laptop. There was a sound then, the front door unlocking. She walked in like nothing had happened, tossing her keys into the bowl, dropping her purse on the floor like usual. Her hair was a little messy, eyes glazed over. She didn't even notice the untouched food on the table or the fact that I was still fully dressed, just sitting there in the kitchen with a laptop open and a glass of wine in my hand. "Oh," she said, barely glancing at me. "You're still up? Still up?" I didn't answer. Not yet. I wanted her to speak first. I needed to see how much she'd lie without knowing how much I already suspected. She sat down across from me and picked at the garlic bread like she was auditioning for the role of normal wife. And then she said it, the sentence that would echo in my head for hours after. "You didn't need to cook tonight. I wasn't going to be hungry." She didn't apologize. She didn't explain where she'd been. She just removed herself from the night like she had nothing to do with it. I looked at her then, really looked, and I realized I didn't recognize the woman across the table. Her mouth was the same. Her eyes were the same, but everything behind them? Gone. I asked her, "Who's your friend?" Her fork paused midair. She didn't answer. So I asked again, "The one you stayed with. What's her name?" And I swear to God, her eye twitched. That's when I knew. She didn't have a friend. And I wasn't the only man who'd cooked dinner for her that night. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't push my chair back or slam my glass down like in some cheap drama. I just sat there, still holding the stem of the wine glass like it was the last thing anchoring me to reality. What's her name? I asked again, quieter this time. Riley didn't flinch. She chewed, swallowed, wiped her mouth like we were having a normal, boring Tuesday dinner. Then she gave me this strange, forced smile, the kind you make when you're cornered but trying to pretend everything's fine. Madeline, she said finally. Madeline. We both knew that name. Her old college roommate. Lived 2 hours away. Had a toddler. A full-time nursing job. Not someone you could just crash with after work on a whim. So I stared at her for a few more seconds, then asked, "Did you call ahead before driving there? Or just show up?" She blinked. Once. Twice. A pause that hung in the air like static. What's with all the questions, Ken? There it was. The redirect. The classic dodge. Instead of answering, she painted me as the problem. I should have stopped. Should have let it go and waited until morning to process everything like a rational person. But I couldn't. The pit in my stomach had hardened into something else now, something sharp. So I leaned forward and said, "You know what I did tonight? I opened your old laptop. The one with all the password-protected files labeled like they came from some corporate memo factory." Her face drained. Dead giveaway. That's when I realized she hadn't expected me to do anything. Not cook. Not ask. Not snoop. I was supposed to be the obedient, clueless husband waiting like a golden retriever in the window. She stood up abruptly and walked to the sink like she needed water. Maybe she did. Maybe her throat dried up from panic. "You went through my stuff?" she snapped, back still turned. "Seriously?" "No," I said. "I opened a computer that's been in our house for 3 years, untouched, and found a fake wall of business documents that you went out of your way to lock down." She didn't turn around. So I added, "What's in the files, Riley?" Still nothing. That silence. It stretched so long, it started to sound like an answer. I almost preferred she yell. Instead, she just placed both her hands on the counter and whispered something I could barely hear. "You really don't want to know." But she was wrong. I did. I wanted to know everything. Because now it wasn't just about cheating. It was about how much of my life had been a lie. How many nights she said, "I love you," while texting someone else under the table. How many smiles were rehearsed. How many memories I treasured that were just placeholders while her heart was somewhere else. And just as I was about to ask her the one question I wasn't sure I could stomach the answer to, her phone lit up on the counter. A name. Not saved under contacts. Just a number. But the preview said it all. Leaving now. Same place? Same place. Not the first time. Not a one-off mistake. A routine. She scrambled for the phone, but I was faster. I grabbed it, walked out of the kitchen, and locked myself in the bathroom before she could follow. She banged on the door. I didn't answer. I was already scrolling. And what I saw next made me physically sick. The bathroom door was the only thing between me and her fury, or maybe her fear. I couldn't tell anymore. She was yelling something from the hallway, but it all sounded like background noise now, like a TV left on in a room you've already emotionally left. My focus was on the screen. I didn't know the number, but it had a local area code. That made it worse somehow. Whoever he was close. Could have passed me in traffic. Could have stood behind me at the grocery store while I bought Riley's oat milk and her stupid gluten-free snacks that she said made her feel lighter. I wanted to laugh or scream. I did neither. The thread went back weeks. Maybe months. She had deleted some of it, clearly. But not all. And what remained was surgical in its cruelty. Emotionally gutted me in real time. They never used names. Not even once. That was intentional. They used initials or nothing at all. There were lines like, "You still taste like last night," followed by things like, "Parked by the tree line. Bring your smile." And worse, "He bought you flowers again? Must be Tuesday." With a laughing emoji. That one wrecked me. Because yeah, I did buy her flowers on Tuesdays. Stupid tradition. Started it the year we got married. A dumb, romantic thing to say. Even a boring Tuesday deserves roses. They were mocking it. He knew about it. She told him. Probably right after she tossed them in the trash. I scrolled further. Saw an image she sent him. Not graphic, but suggestive. Her in the bathroom mirror at work, blouse slightly undone, hair flipped like she used to do for me years ago. The caption was short. "Still your girl?" And his reply? "Always." I dropped the phone. Just let it fall onto the rug like it was on fire. There's a kind of heartbreak that doesn't come from betrayal itself. It comes from the realization that someone you loved had fun betraying you. that they giggled in between their lies, that your pain was a side effect they could live with, not something they ever tried to avoid. She stopped banging on the door. I heard her pacing outside. Then came the knock. Calm, almost gentle. Ken, let me explain. Please. Explain what? How long it had been going on. How many places in our town I now can't unsee because of the memories she created with someone else. I opened the door. She looked smaller than usual. Not physically, just dimmer. Like someone had unplugged the light inside her. Or maybe I had finally stopped pretending it was there. I want you to be honest, I said, voice flat. One time. Just once. Tell me who it is. She looked down, then back at me. And what she said next I wasn't ready for. Not because of the name she dropped, but because of where I had heard it before. It's Randall, she whispered. Randall. Her boss. My jaw tightened. My stomach dropped again. Not because it was shocking, but because it made too much sense. The perfume. The late nights. The sudden interest in makeup and heels, and curling her hair before meetings. All of it. Riley, my wife of 6 years, had been sleeping with her boss. And I had just found out, standing in a bathroom holding the proof, while the dinner I made turned cold in the next room. And then she said something I didn't expect. I ended it. A week ago. But something in her face told me that wasn't true. I didn't reply right away. I just looked at her. She stood there, arms wrapped around herself like she was cold, like she wanted to look small and sad and sorry. But the thing is, this wasn't a tragedy that happened to her. She wasn't a victim. She was the one who handed the knife to someone else and turned her back on me while they twisted it. I ended it, she said again. Quieter this time. Like if she said it soft enough, it would land better. I didn't believe her. Not for a second. Because the messages didn't sound like someone walking away. They sounded like a rerun. A plan. Something she'd done enough times not to flinch at. Same place. That doesn't sound like closure. That sounds like routine. So I asked, what day was that? She blinked. What? The day you ended it. If it really happened, you should remember the exact moment. Did you cry? Was it a fight? Or did you just quietly block him and come home and kiss me like nothing happened? She opened her mouth. Then shut it. She didn't have a date. She didn't have a story. I nodded, more to myself than to her. I felt this slow, burning shift inside me. Like something had been smothered for weeks, maybe months, and was finally catching fire. But I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. That's not me. Instead, I sat back down on the edge of the bed and calmly asked her to leave. What? She said, as if I had just asked her to vanish off the planet. I want you to leave, I repeated. Tonight. She started crying. Right on cue. But I wasn't falling for it. I had spent too long excusing every inconsistency, overlooking every new lie just because she'd cry after and tell me she loved me. Not this time. She didn't pack anything. Just grabbed her purse and her keys and left like she thought this was a temporary tantrum. Like she'd come back in the morning and I'd be holding coffee and an apology. What she didn't know is that I didn't sleep that night. I spent it researching. Not revenge, not yet, but understanding. Randall, her boss. I looked him up, and what I found wasn't just a name with a corporate title. He was married, with kids. 2 of them, actually, twins, both in high school. He played golf, donated to animal shelters, posted cringe-inspiring motivational quotes on LinkedIn. But here's the thing. His wife? She wasn't inactive online. She had a Facebook page, a public one. And guess what she'd posted just 5 days ago? A picture of her and Randall at a restaurant. Not a company dinner, not a business event, something personal. An anniversary. The caption said, 23 years today, and he still makes me laugh like the first time. Hashtag grateful, hashtag best friend. I stared at that photo for a long time. Not because I pitied her, but because I realized something important. Randall didn't just betray me. He betrayed someone else, too. And I had her name. I had her face. I had her Facebook. I suddenly wasn't alone anymore. I didn't text her the next day. Didn't ask if she made it to work. Didn't ask if she was okay. Didn't even ask where she slept. I just let her wonder. That silence. That was my first real move. And judging by how quickly she started panicking, it worked. By 10:14 a.m., she had messaged. Can we talk later? I know you're hurting. Please don't shut me out. By noon, I'm at work, but I can take a break if you want to meet. And by 4:02, please, I miss you. She wasn't used to this version of me, the version that didn't run to her the second she reached out. And the truth is, I wasn't used to it either. But something in me had shifted permanently. I had spent too long trying to fix something she was secretly breaking on purpose. So I waited until nightfall. Then I wrote back one line. You'll hear from someone else before you hear from me again. I didn't elaborate. I didn't answer her calls after. I let her sit with it. Meanwhile, I found Randall's wife's email buried in a public blog post she wrote 3 years ago about dog adoption. Her name was Lena, and she ran a small pet supply store in town. Not flashy, not high profile, just real. I stared at the contact me link for a long time. What was I supposed to say? Hey, just a heads up, your husband and my wife have been sneaking around behind our backs for God knows how long. Thought you'd want to know. No. That felt like a slap when she deserved clarity. So I typed something careful, respectful, calm. Hi, Lena. I know this is going to be painful, and I'm sorry. I'm reaching out because I recently discovered something involving my wife and your husband. I have screenshots, dates, context. I didn't want to believe it either. If you'd prefer I not contact you again, I'll respect that. But if you want the truth, all of it, I'm here. Ken. I read it 10 times before sending it. Then I sat back in my chair and stared at the screen like it might explode. 20 minutes passed. Then I saw it. Lena has replied. I opened the message with a sick feeling in my gut, half expecting anger or denial, or even a cease and desist. But it was none of that. It was short, but it hit hard. Tell me everything. You're not the first person to come to me, but I want to make sure you're the last. I stared at that last sentence. You're not the first. That changed everything. Because it meant this wasn't Riley's first affair, and it wasn't Randall's either. And Lena? She wasn't just going to sit back and cry. She was about to join me in something I hadn't even planned yet. This wasn't just heartbreak anymore. It was strategy. Lena didn't cry when we met. She didn't shake or curse or even ask me for the details right away. She just walked into that little coffee shop on 8th Street, took one look at me, and said, "So you're Ken." I nodded. She sat. No small talk. She opened a manila folder before I could even speak. Inside, phone records, anonymous email screenshots, and a printed photo I wasn't prepared for. It was Randall and Riley in a parking lot, his hand on her lower back, her smile tilted toward him, both of them laughing like they owned the world and never expected anyone to look twice. I hired someone 2 years ago, Lena said, pushing the folder toward me. The first time I got suspicious, I found out Randall had a 6-month thing with one of his subordinates. Said it was a midlife lapse. I forgave him. He promised it was over. My stomach turned. This wasn't just my betrayal. This man had built a history on it. And my wife? She'd become part of his pattern. I handed her my own proof. The text messages, the late-night calls logged in Riley's iCloud backup. Even a voice memo Riley accidentally recorded once when she meant to send a voicemail to me and ended up capturing part of a whispered conversation. Not with me. Lena listened to 10 seconds of that clip and simply said, "That's his voice." We didn't make a revenge plan. Not at first. There were no dramatic vows or montages. Just silence. Then coffee. Then more silence. Until she said something I didn't expect. "I want you to come to the charity gala next Friday. As my +1. I blinked. What? That's the event Randall's hosting, she said. He'll be with the board, giving his little speech, taking photos. Riley will probably be there too, right? Clapping in the front row? I nodded, slowly catching on. Lena continued. I want them both to see us. Together. Calm. Controlled. And when the night's over, I'm going to walk him out to the car, hand him divorce papers, and tell him his board is getting a copy of those photos Monday morning. I sat back, stunned. And you? She asked. I thought for a moment. My anger had faded into something colder by then. Not fire, but ice. I didn't want to scream. I didn't want to beg Riley to explain. I wanted her to feel exactly what I felt. Alone. Exposed. Replaceable. I'll handle her, I said. Let's ruin their script. The next few days were quiet, but deliberate. I didn't contact Riley at all. Let her keep guessing, pacing, crying into her unread messages. I knew what she'd think, that I was calming down, that I'd process it, and maybe, just maybe, we could heal. But this wasn't about healing. Not for me. Friday came faster than I thought. Lena picked me up in a silver car that looked like it hadn't carried chaos in its back seat just days before. She wore black. I wore navy. We looked like people who still had their lives together. That was the point. We walked in, arm in arm. And that's when I saw Riley, across the room, next to Randall, laughing too loud, sipping something expensive, wearing the same necklace I gave her on our 3rd anniversary. She saw me and froze. Riley stood by the champagne table, gripping her glass like it might save her. Randall whispered something to her, and for a second I saw her mouth move, probably saying my name, probably asking why I was here, who I was with. I didn't look away. Neither did Lena. We didn't storm across the room. We didn't make a scene. That would have given them power, made it look like we were there to cause drama. No, we were calm, composed. We walked the room, shook hands, laughed with strangers. And every now and then, I'd feel Riley's stare burning through my back. Let her wonder. Let them both wonder. The speech came. Randall stood at the front of the ballroom, delivering his polished nonsense about integrity in leadership and building trust within the organization. Lena gave a small snort and sipped her drink. I just smiled, the same way a chess player does after moving the final piece. After the applause, she excused herself. 10 minutes later, I saw her outside in the parking lot, standing by Randall's car, handing him a manila envelope. No shouting, just a look. Then she turned around and walked back in like she had just taken out the trash. Inside, Riley found me. I knew she would. She approached like a woman walking across thin ice, voice soft, eyes glossy. Can we talk? I nodded, motioned to a quiet corner. She started with the usual, I made a mistake. It wasn't supposed to go that far. I still love you. But I wasn't there for apologies. I let her speak, every word like a feather falling on a stone, no impact, no weight. And when she was done, I asked her the only question that mattered. Why did you stay with me if you wanted someone else? She looked down. Because I thought I could have both. There it was. The answer behind everything. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. I just looked at her for the last time, not as my wife, not as my friend, but as a stranger, someone I used to know. I'm done, Riley, I said. You've already lost me. Now I'm just giving you space to realize it. I walked away before she could respond, not out of pride, but because I didn't need to hear her say anything else. The chapter was closed. In the weeks that followed, things unraveled quickly for both of them. Randall's board opened a quiet review. Lena moved out. Riley tried calling me almost daily, but I never picked up. I didn't block her. I just stopped replying. And somewhere in all of that silence, I started breathing again. I got back to work, started running again, sleeping through the night. I even reconnected with an old friend, someone who had always been just out of reach while I was too busy begging for scraps of love from someone who never valued it. The truth is, I didn't need revenge. I just needed peace. And once I stopped chasing answers from people who lied with ease, I finally found it.